Tuesday, August the 5th, 2014. We'll be led in prayer by Reverend Jim Howard, following which he will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So great. Y'all stand.
I think the minister that's supposed to be here lives a couple of blocks away from Jeff Plyman, so I told Jeff at yesterday's staff meeting, make sure you bring the minister with you so I don't have to do this anymore, but he didn't come.
Maybe because Plyman asked him, that's probably.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, we ask your blessings on this meeting tonight. We ask for even greater blessings for world peace with this world in such turmoil. We ask that everybody get understanding and work out all of their differences for the betterment of the world. And then lastly, we pray for the sick in all parts of the world that are suffering from the deadly Ebola virus and all the other things that are going on. We ask for your blessings, that we ask for health, we ask for prosperity. This we say, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Start with roll call. Mayor Durrani.
Here.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Here.
Councilman Girl.
Here?
Councilman Hug.
Present.
Councilman McFarland.
Here.
Councilman Morris.
Here.
Councilman Odekirk.
Here.
Councilwoman Quillman. Here. Councilman Turk.
Here.
First on the agenda is a presentation by City Manager Jim Hock regarding employee recognition.
Thank you. As I mentioned last night, I've been going around visiting employees at the various departments, trying to foster stewardship, and that's caring about our community above and beyond the typical duties and responsibilities that employees have. So I'd like to ask the three officers present here this evening to stand up to the podium and be recognized. Because in early June, Officer Jim Schnurra noticed that there was an increasing number of old tires being illegally discarded in Hickory Creek near the intersection of Washington and Henderson. They were not only creating an unsightly mess, but inhibiting proper drainage there. So Officer Schnurra rallied a small group of officers, which include Otto Serrato, Ben Grant, and Mike Klatch, to spend a full day off-duty cleaning the tires from the creek. And they formed a human chain and eventually pulled out a total of 163 tires out of the creek. And these would have eventually ended up in the Des Plaines River. And I know Joliet officers volunteer, all Joliet officers volunteer their time for a number of worthwhile charities, but it's really inspiring to see our city employees to go above and beyond the call of duty, and I just wanted to formally recognize them here this evening. Thank you.
Guys.
Since this has occurred, Officer Schnurra has informed us that the department's been in contact with the EPA, and if there's any business that is dumping tires like this, the EPA will fine them up to $500 a tire, and the city would get the confiscated vehicle that they're dumping the tires, and then the EPA would actually pursue ownership of the business and try and put them out of business. So it's obviously something that our government is concerned about at a federal level, and it's really pleasing to see that our employees have had taken a personal interest in this effort.
Jim, where were they pulled out again? Out of Hickory Creek, where?
It was over at Hickory Creek near the intersection of Washington and Henderson.
Okay. Mayor?
And eventually these would have made their way into the Des Plaines River.
Sure.
So, And the interesting thing also was that with that pile of tires there, they didn't get them till the next day. When they came back the next day, there's another 20 tires there on the side of the road with the pile of tires. So it's questionable whether or not, you know, there is a company out there doing illegal dumping, and we're following up on patrols and keeping an eye on the site to see if they suddenly reappear.
Councilman?
I just wanted to add, I mean, personally, I thank the gentleman as, not just as officers, but as citizens. And hopefully, Jim, we can send out a nice press release, maybe a little bit more detailed. And if we have any friends in the media, and I think we do, this would be a great human interest story because it shows, it's a good example for community pride. You know, I mean, the city government can't do everything, and so sometimes citizens like these off-duty police officers step up and do something that just helps the city become a little bit nicer. So thank you, guys.
Mayor?
Krista? Yes, oh, I'm sorry.
I would just like to say, you know, so many times police officers get a bad rap because there might be one that does something bad, like in the city of Chicago, and it just trickles down to the rest of them. But this just shows what a great police department not only do we have, but I know for sure they would not want to be recognized, and I thank you, Mr. Hawk, for recognizing not only the police department, but there's so many other employees that volunteer their time, and it goes unrecognized. But with this new program that you've started, more and more of them will come to the forefront. So again, I want to thank you guys for what you do, and stay safe. Thank you.
Krista?
Next is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as written?
So moved. Second. Questions? Krista?
Motion and seconded to approve. Councilwoman Gavin?
Aye.
Councilman Girl?
Aye.
Councilman Hogg?
Aye.
Councilman McFarland?
Aye.
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilman Otterkirk?
Aye.
Councilwoman Quillen?
Aye.
Councilman Turk?
Aye.
Mayor Girani?
Aye.
Council committee reports. CTIS committee report.
Well, the CTIS committee met yesterday at 4 o'clock, and on the committee is Councilwoman Mrs. Gavin and Councilman Hugg, with staff involved. And we talked about several things, and I'll just go over them briefly because they're quite detailed. First of all, we'll go over the transportation website update. And that's to ensure that all adequate licensing and support for the system are in place. And it's going to consolidate all the licensing and give us leverage with the state of Illinois to do contracts so that we can get contracts cheaper. And that will be at the lowest cost possible. Let's just move on to the fiber optic initiative. This is to the transportation center. It's going to help businesses and downtown Joliet for an economic boost, but also the county is interested, and several other businesses are interested in this fiber optic initiative, and we want to do it now while the roads are being torn up for the transportation center, so it'll be cheaper instead of laying the roads now and then having to dig them up later to lay the fiber optics. The CED is interested, and it'll be public safety, the school districts, and eventually healthcare and commercial are very much interested as well. So it'll be a whole network throughout the city, and eventually we'll just keep branching out so that finally we'll be able to communicate with everyone and everybody will be on the same page. Also, we talked about the transportation website. And this is being tweaked, and it's our night architects are designing this, and it should be up and running within a month. And any citizen or anyone can go to the website and find out what the closures are, and to inform the public what other roads, what alternate roads to take in the meantime, what the detours are and alternatives, and how long the closures are going to be. And then they're supposed to come to us because the initial maintenance fee was $7,500 for updates and time and material, and also they're going to be on Twitter, Facebook, and the Metro line. But there's another cost that'll come back to the city with a change order in the future. So we're going to be meeting again within a week to bring forth a proposal for a consultant. Actually, it doesn't have to come to City Council depending on what the cost is going to be, but there's a consultant our city manager had in mind. In the meantime, they're going to look to see if we can get anything cheaper. But for right now, this consultant has set this program up in Aurora, and Aurora is very similar to us. and it's working quite well there, and we're hoping that it'll also work as well here. Anyone from the committee have any comments?
I think you covered it
Gavin?
quite well.
Larry?
I'm fine.
Scott, did you want to add anything?
Thank you, Jan. Just one thing. We did talk about a couple of big projects, in particular the Tyler project that you guys approved last year. We're in about month 10 of that project, and we did promise that we would give regular updates to the council. So you've seen this chart before. This is the schedule. Right now, we're in the middle of our financial conversion. I just want to tell you that our department heads and division heads and about 50 to 75 of our fine, hardworking men and women of the city are working every day on this project. You should know that we're on time and we're on budget.
Say that again, please.
Yeah, we're on time and on budget. We spent about $550,000 of the $3.6 million allocated. We expect to come in at or below the 3.6 in the next 2.5 years, but we'll at least quarterly give you a quick heads up on this. The kind of things they're working on right now are listed there, the milestones. A lot of activity in moving data from our current systems to the new one. Data quality improvement. People are working to make sure that what comes out of our current systems and goes into the new ones are, good, clean, quality data so that we don't run into problems on the new platforms. A lot of testing. It's going really well, but, a lot of people are working really hard, and you just need to know that.
Scott?
Sure. Thank you.
Scott, for those that might be watching both here now, give them in 25 words or less. We talk about these different projects. Give the average citizen watching what the Tyler project is.
Yeah, it's
Reminder.
3 major breakdowns. First is financials. Just about everything we do from, within the city finds its way back into our financial system. So when you make a conversion of this type, it's typically good to start with financials. The next one is utility billing. So we've got 45 or 48,000 customers that we bill every month. It's a critical system, a lot of people involved in that. That's the next application that'll be converted. And then finally, we're going to be going into our community development suite, which involves planning and zoning, permitting, licensing, inspections, those kinds of things. So over the next 2.5 years, we'll be hitting all those systems, and our people will then have first-rate, state-of-the-art technology to do their jobs in the best possible way.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, John.
Scott, thanks for giving your presentation, by the way. It's excellent, as always. How's the implementation going with our ADP system, with our new payroll system?
Yeah, the ADP project is going well. We're, again, another group of people working very, very hard on that. We're expecting an October cutover. There's really nothing more to say on that at this time. We're in the testing phase, so people are making sure that people are expected to get paid, they actually will get paid, and that's pretty much where that's.
So we're thinking October we should be fully implementing that the ADP system.
That's the target that we're on right now, and what we're absolutely shooting for. I will tell you this: we're not going to put anything at jeopardy. So if at the point in time when we're at the cutover, something's not just right, we will have to postpone. But right now we're on target for an October time.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted some. I know initially we were supposed to cut over in April. But, I recognize we had some personnel changeover and that sort of thing, but we spent a significant amount of capital dollars with the payroll system, and well, in addition to your software here, but we spent a significant amount of dollars on the new payroll system, and I just want to make sure that we didn't forget that, and we're kind of moving forward on that as well.
And I'll just add that under the leadership of Ken Mihelich, who's driving that project, he's enlisted the support, once again, of all of our department heads, and so much communication has gone on in this project and involvement of all the people who are, have to input their time into the system, which, leads to the generation of payment.
And I think that's key, that we're now involving many individuals, many staff, to get a project like this done. So I commend Ken for doing that.
Clearly, communication is the key. The involvement of everybody, the training of everybody. That's what we've been doing.
Thank you.
You bet.
Mayor, if I might address the ADP. Just to clarify for those who might be listening too, the ADP, it's not like when we're at home and we buy office suites, put it on a computer, and it works the same on every computer. ADP is a general program used for payroll and financials, and many large organizations, corporations, companies, smaller, and municipalities use it. And then once it's implemented, what you're really doing now is you're making it fit Joliet, and you're working out the bugs. So it's not a one-size-fits-all program. That just doesn't exist.
It's not, and with 6 bargaining units, we've got complicated pay rules and upgrades and lots of different things that have to be accounted for. And that's what's taking a lot of the extra energy here and the time, is to make sure that in all those scenarios are fully tested and that people will get the check that they're expecting, when we cut over.
And I do want to thank Ken Mahalich, yourself, and the whole team, too. And again, as alluded to, that there had been some delays, too. Part of the delays, too, had to do with staff turnover. We had a project, project leadership, and there was staff turnover. And then, Ken, thank you for stepping in, because it's always difficult to come in halfway, after following the halftime and call the offensive strategy. So, we're back, the wheels are back on the tracks, and we're headed to a respectable go-live date.
Just one, I'm sorry.
Mayor,
Yes.
just to put a little more simply, as we discussed last night at the committee meeting, when you have a payroll of our size and you have so many different salaries and shift differential and overtime and non-overtime and paid vacation and time off and sick time, it gets very complicated, and it's very, very difficult to tweak besides everything else that needs to go into this program. So if you're listening at home, now you can understand a little bit how hard, particularly our payroll is, because I know we're undergoing some changes at the hospital as well, and to figure out each individual paycheck, to make sure that it's right for everybody and that they're getting the right amount of money that they should get. That's a big part of this ADP, and it is hard, very hard, to get it tweaked to make it right. So I would encourage employees, when we go live, just check your paycheck and keep track of your hours, but just to help us out. But it is a difficult process, and you guys are doing a great job.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, all the employees have been good sports. This is above and beyond their normal daily work. They're expected to come to training and try it and make sure that they're entering their time. It's a significant change for them. So it's one day at a time, and the team is working really hard to hit those dates.
And the last thing I would tell you, and I would remind people, too, is I almost forgot about it. We're talking about systems, and I'm not even talking computer, that have been in their current state from the 70s and the 90s. I mean, this is like a big step for the city of Joliet, and it's bringing us where we need to be. So I think you guys are doing a great job on that.
Chairman.
John, you want to?
I just have one thing. This is probably for Ken. Ken, will the ADP system, I'm assuming the new payroll system, that will interface with our new general ledger software package that we're proposing, correct?
Yeah, actually, it'll be a 2-step process, John. The first, obviously, when we get to October, we're going to be in the old system, and then we'll go to the new system as well. So there's some interface that has to happen, actually, post-go live as well.
Great. Thanks, Ken. Thanks again for your effort, too.
Thank you.
I had one question. Either for the committee members or for Scott. We discussed about the city becoming in compliance with our email archiving, right of compliance, and I know there was an initiative, and the council voted to secure that package. Do we have an update on what the status of the implementation is? Already implemented?
Yeah. What the councilman is talking about is the ability to archive every email that comes in or out of the city. That was approved in May and implemented and live on June 1st. So as of June 1st, everything that comes in or out of the city is captured and is usable for electronic discovery, for legal cases, for FOIA requests, things like that. And the people that will be able to do that are the right people, which are not the technology people, but those people that are in legal, human resources, the city clerk's office. They can go and do searches, respond to FOIAs, respond to legal holds and discovery requests. And so it's a big step forward. I know you were a driver behind that. You helped us kind of get launched and supported us to get that off the mark. And I think you'll be pleased to know that we can respond much quicker in much easier ways to those types of requests. So
And we're compliant with law.
we are compliant. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem.
I guess that concludes our report.
Public Service Committee report.
Okay, Your Honor, the Public Service Committee comprised of Councilwoman Gavin and Councilman Farland met yesterday prior to our pre-council meeting to review the contracts, change orders, pay estimate, and final payments found all to be in order. The committee recommend their approval. We also talked about drainage impacts at the Kearney Glen Detention Pond. Two individuals appeared before us who farmed the land adjacent to the Kearney Glen subdivision, who, since the detention pond went in, has been getting water onto their property to the point where there's about 30 to 35 acres that they can't farm. So we asked staff to come up with a recommendation to alleviate their problem and with a cost estimate, and they will give us an update at the next meeting.
Thank you. Thank you.
I show no other reports. Consent agenda, approval of minutes. It's recommended the minutes of the pre-council meeting held on July 14th and of the regular meeting held on July 15th, 2014 stand approved as recorded. Council Memo 353-14, regular payroll for June 13th through the 26th, 2014, $3,077,439.03. It's recommended said regular payroll be approved.
So moved.
Second.
Questions? Kristen?
Motion and seconded to approve said consent agenda items. Councilman Girl.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
Aye.
Councilman McFarland.
Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilman Otterkirk.
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilman Turk.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Mayor Girani.
Aye.
Motion carried. Ordinances and resolutions. Under ordinances, Council Memo 354-14, an ordinance approving the reclassification of 5 parcels along the west side of Collins Street from R2 and R4 zoning to B3 zoning. It is recommended said ordinance be adopted.
So moved.
Second.
Questions? Kristen?
It's been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Hug.
Aye.
Councilman McFarland.
Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilman Otterkirk.
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilman Turk.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Councilman Girl.
Aye.
Mayor Girani.
Aye.
Motion carried. Council Memo 355-14, an ordinance approving the repeal of a special use permit to allow a power car washing and auto detailing shop in an existing structure located at 805 West Park Avenue, and an ordinance approving the special use permit to allow conversion of an automatic power washing and auto detailing shop into an auto repair business located at 805 West Park Avenue. It is recommended said ordinances be adopted.
So moved.
Second.
Questions?
It's been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman McFarland.
Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilman Otterkirk.
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilman Turk.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Councilman Girl.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
Aye.
Mayor Girani.
Aye.
Motion carried. Council Memo 360-14, refunding of a portion of the 2006 water and sewer bonds and radio system borrowing via negotiated sale, which includes the adoption of ordinances authorizing the issuance of an amount not to exceed $12 million of waterworks and sewerage revenue refunding bonds and $4 million of general obligation refunding bonds in one or more series. It's recommended said ordinances be adopted.
So moved.
Second.
Maybe a brief explanation, Jim, how much money we're going to save here?
Sure, Mayor. Again, we're using Spear Financial for our consultants, and they've recommended, a lot of this has to do with timing in the marketplace, and they believe at this point in time, refinancing the debt we incurred on our updated radio system should yield a minimum of $80,000 in savings, and then the utility debt should be a minimum of $250,000 in savings.
Thank you. Kristen?
Motion and seconded to approve. Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilman Otterkirk.
Good work, Jim. Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilman Turk.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Councilman Girl.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
I'd just like to make a quick comment. I'm excited that, since bringing Bernardi to the city last fall after I had met with him, and make it clear to people, this is half of the pie, because we have a reissue that will come in March, and some of the preliminary, and certainly it's based on interest rates, it's upwards of over $1 million we're going to save over 8 years. And when I first brought him, I think some people looked at it, why are you bringing these people, Councilman Hug? I have to admit that I didn't come across them quite by myself. Councilman McFarland had come across them, I believe, at some kind of municipal event, correct? And then being a member of the Finance Committee, he turned me on and we had met, and they were very impressive. So now I'm really excited. It's almost like I just had a baby. I'm excited to see it happening, so good work for staff to follow through on this. I do appreciate it, and aye.
Councilman McFarland.
Aye.
Mayor Girani.
Aye.
Motion carried. Under Resolutions, Council Memo 357-14, a resolution authorizing the purchase of property from the Will County Delinquent Tax Auction. It's recommended said resolution be adopted.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Questions?
Been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Otterkirk?
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman?
Aye.
Councilman Turk?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin?
Aye.
Councilman Girl?
Aye.
Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Councilman McFarland?
Aye.
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Mayor Girani.
Aye.
Motion carried. Council Memo 358-14, a resolution authorizing the conveyance of property located at 818 Fisk Avenue to Cornerstone Services. It is recommended said resolution be adopted.
So moved.
Second.
Questions?
It's been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilwoman Coleman?
Aye.
Councilman Turk?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin?
Aye.
Councilman Girl?
Aye.
Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Councilman McFarland?
Aye.
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilman Otterkirk?
Aye.
Mayor Girani.
Aye.
Motion carried. Council Memo 359-14, a resolution authorizing the expenditure of motor fuel tax funds for the Essington Road roadway improvement project. It is recommended said resolution be adopted.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Questions?
It's been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Turk?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin?
Aye.
Councilman Girl?
Aye.
Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Councilman McFarland?
Aye.
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilman Otterkirk?
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman?
Aye.
Mayor Girani.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next, bids and contracts, award of contracts. Council Memo 362-14, award of contract and approval of change order number 1 for the 2014 hazardous tree and EAB removal. Council Memo 363-14, award of contract for the 2014 MFT roadways resurfacing contract Phase 2. Council Memo 364-14, approve payment of the 2014 wastewater discharge NPDES permit fees. Council Memo 365-14, award a contract for the North Rainer Avenue Water Main Improvements Project 2014. Council Memo 366-14, award a contract for the Essington Road Water Main Improvement Project 2014. Council Memo 367-14, approve a contract for the Nicholson Street Water Main Improvement Project 2014. Council Memo 368-14, approve a contract for the Black Road Water Main Improvements Project 2014. Council Memo 369-14, approve a contract for the Belmont Avenue Water Main Improvements Project 2014. It is recommended Council Memos 362 through 369-14 be approved.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions on any of these?
Yes, Mayor.
Yes.
On the emerald ash borer and the ash trees, Jim, this is the roughly $150,000 you had discussed setting aside for this fall, correct?
No, the $150,000 that we amended the ordinance is for actual replacement trees. This is strictly for the removal of the dying ash trees.
And that $150,000 you set apart was that was a, for lack of a better term, a immediate stopgap. We're looking at a bigger program. Still,
That's
correct?
true.
Where are we at on that bigger program for a grow contract?
Probably by September, we should come to you with a proposal, either borrowing the money from the state revolving fund, interest-free, or going with a nursery program and having a long-term bid working with a local nursery, or it may be a combination of both. Because even if we bought up to $5 million out of this fund, you couldn't plant $5 million worth of trees in any one year. So even that program would, 3 to 5 years would probably be a fast track in getting those plantings. And even with that, we'd probably work with a nursery through the bid process to get all those trees set up and make sure we get the types of trees that we want that are going to thrive in the community.
And to be clear, when you refer to the grow contract, as we refer to it as, what you're saying is what we do. So, especially residents out there who have been devastated in their neighborhood with the ash trees, is you plan out over 3, 5, maybe 6 years, 7 years, and you get into a partnership with a nursery. Our arborist would then give them a list of the trees. There would be an approved list of trees and a percentage that can be planted within a given area. And then over those years, we would kind of pre-order. So they would keep on hand the trees we want, and it can actually bring back, from what I understand, a reduction in cost of maybe as much as 50%.
True.
On the purchase and planting of the tree.
Right.
All right, so I'm excited to hear you in September.
This motion and seconded to approve Council Memos 362 through 369-14. Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Councilman Girl.
Aye.
Councilman Hugg.
Aye.
Councilman McFarland.
Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilman Otterkirk.
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilman Turk.
Aye.
Mayor Girani.
Aye.
Motion carried. Amendments, change orders, and payments. Council Memo 371-14, approved change order number 1 and payment number 1 and final for the land clearing at the East Side wastewater treatment plant contract. It is recommended Council Memo 371-14 be approved.
So moved. Second.
Questions?
Motion and seconded to approve Councilman Girl.
Aye.
Councilman Hugg.
Aye.
Councilman McFarland.
Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilman Otterkirk.
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilman Turk.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Mayor Girani.
Aye.
Motion carried. Licenses and permit applications. Council Memo 373-14, transfer of a Class B liquor license at 2950 Plainfield Road, Red Lobster. It's recommended Red Lobster Hospitality LLC, doing business as Red Lobster, be issued a Class B liquor license.
So moved.
Second.
Questions?
Hey,
Sure.
I see the gentleman here from Red Lobster. Out of curiosity, if you don't mind stepping forward, the councilwoman last night asked a little bit about Darden and what's happening. I was just curious with this separation, are you guys still then linked with Olive Garden?
Good evening, and for the record, my name is Harlan Powell. I'm the attorney for Red Lobster. Darden will retain ownership 100% of Olive Garden, to answer your question.
The reason why I asked is I saw that you were here and you brought up the comment. I get stopped probably once a week with our residents asking for an Olive Garden to come to town. So I thought maybe we could ask you, maybe you can go see if we could potentially seek an Olive Garden to come to our community.
It's interesting that you raised that. I ran into the mayor early on in this licensing process, and he raised the same issue. I'd passed on his inquiry to my counterparts at Darden, and I do know that there has been interest within their real estate group in this area. I don't have specifics. I have requested that information, and as soon as I have anything substantive to share, I'll certainly be in touch with the mayor's office.
Thank you. Maybe if you keep us up.
You asked for a traffic study for Essington Road because I talked about how busy that is. We do not have one. I believe the mall does, and we're working on trying to get that for you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
It was motion and seconded to approve. Councilman Hugg.
Aye.
Councilman McFarland.
Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilman Otterkirk.
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilman Turk.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin. Councilman Girl.
Aye.
Mayor Girani.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next, under Mayor Girani appointments.
I have none this evening.
Under City Manager.
Just a quick question on appointments. I was informed today that we had an individual resign from the Planning Commission.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any
There was
way?
2 openings. One I'm going to have next meeting. I'm going to bring up, and the other one we're still searching.
Just as a courtesy, if somebody resigns from one of the boards that we appoint, could the council be informed?
I can do that.
Just as I was
Absolutely.
surprised, we just appointed the one individual that I heard resigned a couple months back, and
Yeah.
I didn't know about
Right.
it, and I was a little concerned. I like to send a card. It sounds like
I can do that.
Kind of.
I can do that.
Thank you.
Next, under City Manager, ComEd Annual Report.
Thank you. I've got a couple of things. Last week, I met with Jeff Hetrick of ComEd to discuss our 2013 annual report, and I thought I'd share some of that with you because I know you get a lot of questions from your constituents throughout the year, and I want to make sure you know what ComEd is doing. So they provide statistical information including all of the episodes over a 2-year period where the power was out, every occasion, but their concern is about when a power failure lasts longer than 18 hours. And during 2013, there were 30 cases or situations where that occurred. Why does this happen? Mostly they're weather-related, which means, you know, it could be lightning, it could be wind, it could be fallen branches. And the next highest item is animal-related, which means squirrels chewing through the actual lines. So what they do is they keep record of these locations. They keep track of the reasons why, and oftentimes the biggest or most important method, most common method is they install what's called a reclosure circuit, which in essence is a giant circuit breaker in the line that after 8 seconds will automatically close, and then if it pops again, then they are notified, and remotely they will reset it, and if it keeps popping after 5 or 6 times, then they know there's some other issue, and they need to send out a crew to examine. So, and I always thought that when lines are put underground, that of course that makes them imperviable to the weather conditions, but I figured they didn't have to be replaced for years and years, but that's not true. After about 25, 30 years, they do have to come in and start replacing those underground lines. But it is fairly easy because they are in conduit, and they can, bore diagonally and pull them out at the other end, so that will be ongoing as well. One of the biggest things that's an outgrowth, this is a requirement by the state and has started in the city of Chicago and is working outward, is that in beginning 2016, they'll implement the smart grid / smart meter program. And so each meter will send a message of an automatic reading to ComEd, but it'll also send the message when the power is out. It's real important that residents, when their power is out, that they call ComEd and let them know right now. But once this is in place, and we have approximately 70,000 meters in the city of Joliet, they will know exactly where the power is out and what circuits are affected, and they can work much more quickly on those types of replacements. They'll also be able to monitor power demand and determine what are peak times of the day that power is being requested by residents and businesses, and then they know when to generate more power at times of the day. People think, oh, if we just change to wind or solar, we won't need power plants anymore. But that's not true, because when the sun goes down at night, that's typically when the power demand goes up. But it takes several hours to create that power from the power plant to meet the peak demand, which is in the evening when the sun's gone or the wind's died down. So it helps coordinate that kind of activity. One thing new is that they've established what they call priority trees in the community. And these are trees that have been identified that are always problem trees, getting in the way. And so residents that have these trees, there's only about 50 locations throughout the city. They'll get a letter directly saying that ComEd will come out and cut their tree down to the ground and take the stump out. Now, residents can take advantage of it, or they can say, no, thank you, and ComEd will still come out and trim the tree, but they're looking to alleviate problems in the future which have caused power failures in the past. Finally, critical facilities have been identified. So when there's a power failure, they know that they need to address hospitals and the fire station and police station. But they also, when that happens, nursing homes under state law have to be evacuated after 4 hours of no power. So they'll contact us about how many wells and which wells we're operating so that they can repair only 10 wells instead of all 38. And then they can, once they're done with our 10, so that we can keep the water flowing, they'll focus on nursing homes and other things that apparently have, higher priority. There's also a list of people who have notified ComEd that they've got oxygen generators at home or dialysis centers and so forth, so that they can make sure that those personal residents have higher priority as well. And that's been shared with our police and fire departments so that they have that information as well. And also our dispatch facility, so that if they get a call, they can confirm that somebody has that equipment. Any questions? A couple other things. One thing, as you know, we had a parking study done for the downtown, that we had this done separate from the downtown master plan, and so that could be shared with those consultants, and we pulled out the wayfinding as part of it. This was a request for proposal. It was under $20,000. It is approaching completion, and we didn't think at the time that the proposal went out that we would need a presentation to council, but after the team has reviewed the preliminary results, we believe it would be really beneficial to bring back the consultants at our next meeting to present this report, to talk to you about because it's highly detailed, and start the thought process going before we turn it over to the developers, before we share with City Center Partnership and CED. But that will put it over the $20,000 mark, I want you to know. And so I will get something on the agenda for your approval when you approve the bill. So, and going back to Councilman Hugg's comment earlier about Bernardi and Councilman McFarland learning through various means, I've been emphasizing to you that the Illinois Municipal League Conference is coming up in September, and it's an opportunity for you to talk to your like-minded elected officials all over the state. They put on seminars for 2.5 days, and there's also a exhibitor vendor location where you can meet some of the vendors that provide these services, and learn ideas, and come back to your own community, come back to Joliet, and talk to each other and share these ideas and see if there's some worthy of pursuing, because I think there's a great deal for all of us to benefit from these kind of training opportunities.
I just had one question about the ComEd report. I thank you for the update. It seems as if I'm getting more and more calls about streetlights being out. I don't know if it's because of the weather or the rain, but is there a way to put a link on our website if a resident has a street light, that they can be linked right to ComEd? I don't know if there's a way to do that, if there's a drop down.
Well, I think
it could even be there. I looked, I couldn't see it from the homepage.
we can do that, but we'd rather have them report it to us, because we have specific staff that work with a specific agent at ComEd to report these outages to, and to make sure that there's follow-up, back and forth between those two individuals. So I think we can get faster results that way.
Well, if that's the policy, I need to know that, because I was told, I was given a link to the ComEd website to have the resident fill it out. So I did not know that we were keeping a database of the lights that are not owned by the city. So if that's what we're going to do, I think we need to communicate that, and I will then forward you one. I just got one on Kathy, actually, today, so I'll
We'll
forward
do
it
that.
on to yourself.
Krista?
Next is new business, not for final action or recommendation.
Yes. Thank you. Under new business, a few weeks back, I received several phone calls about 2 houses being torn down on Rainer Avenue. And I was asked what happened. Well, I didn't know. So I brought this to the attention of the city manager because many, many years ago, I live in the Cathedral area, many years ago, we had a issue with another church in the neighborhood, wanted homes for parking once a week. So under the then city manager, we all thought at the time, we compromised with the church, and the city manager worked out a deal between the neighbors and the church that no more homes would be torn down on Rayner Avenue for parking. And if they were contemplating, and any business or church was contemplating that, in any neighborhood, they would inform the neighbors and just be a good neighbor and go to the neighbors, give them their plan, and implement it. Because when you buy a home, you buy in a neighborhood, and there's many homes around you, you don't expect like 2 years later that there's going to be a parking lot across the street from you. So when I got to the bottom of this, talking to staff, there was no ordinance in place, which we thought there was. So I did attend the CAPA meeting last night with the plans that were submitted by the Cathedral of St. Raymond. And not only were 2 homes taken down on Rayner, but there are plans to take some more homes on Mason, and also maybe in the future, some homes on Wilcox. And I understand that, we can't dictate to property owners what they can and cannot do with their property, but I think some common courtesy with not only the neighbors, but the neighborhood organization and the city should have some type of plan submitted. So with that being said, I had no other explanation because we weren't even notified, but the Cathedral area met last night, and they decided that they would like to come forward and make a small presentation to the city council about their understanding. And the thing of it is, and not to be misconstrued as just a CAPA neighborhood thing, this is a city-wide thing. This can happen anywhere in the city, north, south, east, or west. Any business or commercial or anybody can just buy a home and tear it down and put whatever they want there. So this is just a presentation, I think, to tweak our little ordinance, what we have in place now. And I believe Bob Noctree from the Cathedral Area Preservation Association wanted to speak, so I know we have to have a motion. I would second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you for that vote. I don't know if it was a vote of confidence or you just want some entertainment. What Jan said is exactly right, and what we understood and accept fully is that every property owner does have the right to demolish property for whatever reason he wants to. That's part of the way our country works. But as I understand it, the way it works in Joliet now is a person who wishes to demolish a building goes to the city, pays for a permit, gets the permit, and turns right around and demolishes it. And we, after this discussion last night, felt it would probably be beneficial not only to the property owner and the neighbors, but also to the city, if we could institute some sort of orderly interchange process that would involve a delay of some period of time, a month or 2 months or less or more, and a requirement similar to that of the zoning board to notify nearby neighbors within a certain radius that this is going to happen, and perhaps to have some kind of public hearing where people could come and listen to what is done and express opinions. And the owner at that point could accept some or all of the recommendations or none of them, but at least there would have been communication between the affected neighbors and the owner, and some level of understanding would be hopefully achieved. This kind of thing would not necessarily solve the problem in every case, but it would make sure that there is communication. It shouldn't cost the city very much to do it in terms of money or time, but it could possibly reap some substantial benefits in just understanding and less conflict. So would this be an ordinance or a change in some kind of regulation? I don't know. And in terms of details, how much time, what radius, how many people involved, we have ideas, but they're no better than anybody else's ideas. But that was,
Maybe we can have the land use committee take a look at that and have a meeting and come out with a recommendation.
yeah, that'd be perfect.
Okay.
And one final thing, Jan is absolutely right. Of course, we're concerned about our own neighborhood, and this episode happened in our neighborhood, but this is the kind of thing that affects the entire city, and it would be something that we think should apply to the entire city.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
But Mayor, I think the hurtful thing here is this neighborhood has come so far. Back in the 60s and 70s, it was really chopped up with apartment buildings. And the neighbors took a stand and formed this organization and named it after the cathedral and stabilized that neighborhood and took these beautiful homes and to preserve them and to not even communicate with the neighborhood what the plan was or even with the city. The Cathedral Area puts on a house walk every year to showcase our city, to see what we have in historic homes. Many of them have a fabulous history of many Joliet business people or famous people that went on to do other things, inventions like the barbed wire, the Scott Mansion. And it was just more hurtful and shocking that our cathedral, who we're named after, wouldn't even reach out and communicate that to us. And so when I did talk to our city manager, Mr. Hawk, he did get some staff looking at it, and have we come up with anything yet, Jim?
Well, one of the things that we are going to, that I've been asking staff to implement, and actually this Thursday morning will be the first meeting of our development team. And they're going to meet every 2 weeks, and it brings together all facets of our organization, economic development, building, planning, so forth, to sit down and talk about the active projects that we have going on. And also an opportunity to schedule meetings with current developers that need further guidance, but potential developers who want to come in with ideas, and we can help guide them through the process as to what's needed. And so what we'll be doing is keeping a general log of all active projects, and we decided that we should include demolition applications on that list, and we'll be sharing that list with you every month. It takes a little bit over a month to get a demolition permit because of utility disconnections and so forth. So you as council, we as staff may know that there's a concern in an area, but we may not. And so that's why sharing it with you all, you can take a look at that list and see if, is there a demolition here that a neighborhood we would be concerned about. I do want to share with you, though, just that our ordinance does have higher screening requirements when you're putting parking lots in residential areas, because we do have a concern with that screening, and as best as possible, we want to keep it that residential character in the neighborhood.
And I would just like to add, for all the Kappa bashers out there, because there's going to be lots of blogs and emails going on, Kappa gets everything. This is not just about Kappa. But I want to say this Kappa neighborhood, again, joined together and worked very hard to make this neighborhood what it is today. And if they didn't work so hard and get involved and take these homes on an individual basis at a great cost to the homeowners, that's why this neighborhood is what it is today. Otherwise, these churches wouldn't even be here anymore. So I would like to see more neighborhood organizations get together, work as hard as we did, because again, this does not just apply to this neighborhood. It pertains to every single neighborhood and every single neighborhood organization in this city. But people have to get involved to make it work. And that's all I have to say.
Question?
Sure.
Jeff or Jim, I'm going to try to simplify this. Currently under ordinance, when we have a residential building and it's torn down, a commercial building can't go up, I mean a commercial structure, without a process, right?
That's true.
So I
It has
was
to be
surprised.
properly zoned.
Well, I was surprised when I heard that parking lots aren't part of the commercial ordinance. Isn't it as simple as adding parking lots to the commercial ordinance and requiring commercial zoning, which then would require a hearing?
We do allow within 300 feet of the commercial development, parking areas in residentially zoned property.
So maybe we simply need to change that
That's
to a
in the
hearing
zoning
process.
ordinance right now.
Well, maybe we just simply have the land use committee take a look at that allowance of tearing down a house and making it part of the commercial process. That way it has to go through.
That may
there.
be an issue to review because, maybe 300 feet's too far. Maybe you want to maybe you just want to change it to the adjacent property so that that abuts the boundary of the existing commercial property. So a parking lot doesn't go 3 or 4 lots down the street. So, sure, that's something to
question.
consider.
I have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Betty?
Jim, I just want to ask you, I know that you said there was some time when one pulls a demolition permit, there is a period of time that everything has to go.
Before it's issued.
Okay. Could we look at something during that period of time where the property owner and the community has an opportunity to talk about even what the demolition is for, and to give them some time for some conversation? I don't know if that will work, but at least it keeps the property owner, the new property owner, in communication with the residents and probably getting down to exactly what the purpose of the demolition could be.
As
Would that be?
Councilwoman Quillman pointed out, the main concern is communication with the neighborhood. And that's what we want to reinforce here is the dialogue between that commercial business and the residential neighborhood. And by sharing the information, and you call us and say, hey, I had a neighbor, or I know that neighborhood group is going to be concerned about this parking lot, then we'll make sure as staff, we notify that applicant and ask them to reach out and initiate that dialogue.
I think we have to be very careful here because that property owner has rights too.
They certainly do.
Okay, so
Absolutely. Absolutely.
that's
yes.
all I'm saying, yeah.
And that's why I stated that, we understand that. But just some communication and just say, hey,
Absolutely.
this is what my plan is, what do you think? Just talk to us, don't.
Understand.
But my question is a church considered commercial property or is it just considered residential? Because I know we had this argument back before.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I believe the law would look at churches and commercial properties as two different land uses. Traditionally, churches have always been accepted and welcomed in residential zoning districts. They always have been in Joliet. And that's really the issue here. We're not dealing with a commercial encroachment. We're dealing with a church and a neighborhood that have been together for 100 years. And churches certainly need parking too. And so this is a little harder than just dealing with commercial encroachment, although it's similar in character because a church is not a residence, but all of them need parking. And so there needs to be some work in balancing the residential appearance and character of the neighborhood with the legitimate needs for a park to deal with, or not a park, a church to deal with the parking needs of its congregation. I think the other issue is communication and notice, and certainly that should be on the table.
And again, Mayor, just to reiterate again, it's just about being a good neighbor. That's all it is. You want to communicate with your neighbor. If you're going to build a garage, ask them, hey, we're going to do this. That's all it is. And, under the auspices of love thy neighbor. And that's what it is.
Mayor? Just a few comments. First of all, I want to thank Bob for coming out here today, and I think if there's, and all the CAPA members, and I think if there is an area, that needs to be tweaked a little bit in our current process, then we should certainly look at it. But I will tell you, being an active member of the Cathedral of St. Raymond's, it certainly was not the intent of the cathedral to be hurtful to its neighbors. They certainly want to be good neighbors. And in fact, I think my understanding is that the cathedral did reach out to a member or two of the CAPA organization about what was going on and about the demolition. And my understanding is that I think there's an annual meeting coming up in September or October, and I think the cathedral is coming to that meeting in September or October. So I think the last thing that the cathedral wants to do is somehow be a bad neighbor. I think they've been in the cathedral area for a long time and certainly appreciate all the good works that CAPA has done. So I think, that's the first thing. It's the last thing the cathedral wants to do is be a bad neighbor. In transparency, I can tell you this by sitting in the pews every Sunday. We've been discussing this, or it's been in the bulletin for probably 3 or 4 months. So there was certainly no hidden agenda on behalf of the cathedral. Now, obviously, that bulletin and those announcements were just for the parish itself, but certainly they'd be willing to sit down with any of the neighbors, and certainly with Kappa, who I know the cathedral holds in very high respect, and wouldn't want to do anything to offend any of the residents of Kappa, because I would assume many of your members are, in fact, I know many of your members go to the Cathedral of St. Raymond's, and there's certainly been a great partnership there for a very long time. So I know that the cathedral is planning. We're planning to come to your meeting in September or October. Certainly we could speed that up. I can chat with the pastor, Father Brad. If you would like to, maybe some of your members come over and view the renderings, they would be more than happy to share that with you. In addition, I think you're going to find that the improvements that the cathedral is making are going to beautify not only the cathedral, but the Kappa area as well. There is going to be 36 extra spots that are going to be created here, which I think are going to get 36 cars off of the streets on a Saturday night and a Sunday morning and Sunday afternoon masses. That's one thing. There's also going to be a beautiful brick fencing that's going to go around this area as well. But you'd see that, on the renderings, either at your meeting in September or October, your annual meeting, or we can expedite it and have you over to Cathedral and have you take a look at this. And again, I'm certainly not the spokesman for the Cathedral, but I am an active member, and I know Father Brad would be more than happy to sit down with anybody from the Cathedral. With respect to the ordinance change or process change, I'd like to see what's being proposed. I think we do have to balance the balance property owners' rights and what they can do, with their property. And I think Councilman Hugg makes a good point. You can't just tear down a building and put up anything you want. It doesn't work that way. You can't tear down a residential building and put up a smokestack in its place. Our ordinances just don't work that way. So the cathedral certainly wants to be a good neighbor. There was absolutely no intention to be hurtful in any way. There was absolutely no reason for them not to be transparent in everything they do, because they're a part of the area. They're a part of Kappa. They've been there for 100 years, and certainly want to maintain good relationships. So, Bob, you and I can certainly talk after the meeting. I can schedule a meeting, or we can just, visit you guys at your annual meeting, whatever you choose to do, because I know for a fact that the cathedral, wants to be a good neighbor to Kappa, because Kappa has been good to Cathedral. But I just want to end by saying, I think once you see the improvements, and it's a substantial amount of money. It's not only to the parking lot, it's not only the brick fencing. There's going to be improvements to the outside of the cathedral as far as tuck pointing and things like that, and also to the internal sanctuary as well. I think you're going to be very happy with it, and I think you're going to see not only does it enhance the cathedral, but it also is going to enhance the entire cathedral area. So those are my comments. Thank you. Good.
I would like to make a clarification. Bob Noctry, do you want to dispute that Kappa was notified, or do you want me to do it? Okay, not to dispute what you said, John, because what you were told is what we were told as well, the city was told as well. The cathedral area was not notified. No one reached out to the cathedral area. I know that's what you were told, because that's what we were told too. What happened was the president, John Kella, approached the cathedral with the upcoming house walk to ask if they could use one of the rooms for was it the rooms or the restrooms or something for the house walk. And when he was doing his investigation about that, he was told by a secretary, is that correct? Oh, by the way, we're going to take some houses down on Rainer. And before anything could be done, it was a done deal. So that's how they were notified. It was not a reach out and be notified. And that's what upset me. Otherwise, if they had been notified, I wouldn't even be talking about this today, John.
Councilwoman, I'm certainly not going to quibble with you up here as far as who said he should. I'm going to look to the future. and see how we can improve the relationship, how we can make sure that this does not happen again. And again, reiterating that the cathedral, there is no malicious intent here. All they want to do is not only beautify the cathedral itself, but also the neighborhood. So let's take this thing down a few notches, and let's all get together and see how we can make a very successful project here. So.
And again, no one said there was any malicious intent involved. It was just a very hurtful thing, and we were talking about communications, that's all. So don't twist the words.
Councilwoman, I was not twisting any words. I'm sorry. You used the word hurtful. And the
Hurtful, yes.
cathedral is not in the business of being hurtful. That's all I'm saying.
Well, it was hurtful. And I'm not just talking about me, because I didn't. It's many, many neighbors and people that live there that work very, very hard. And I represent that neighborhood. You don't even live there. You just go to church there.
I think we covered this. I don't want to have to pull out my referee whistle. Let's, okay? There you go. Any other new business not for discussion?
I do.
I mean, not for voting. Sure.
My turn? Sure. All right. First, I just wanted to make an acknowledgement before I go into what I'm suggesting that we do. You know, oftentimes up here we pat each other on the back. We certainly commend the staff. We commend neighborhood organizations, and we commend our fellow residents. It's been a hard 6 or 7 years. We oftentimes don't commend the businesses. Just today, I was talking to the manager of the Louis Joliet Mall out in my district, Kate Knuth, and I commended her. You know, we've really not brought a lot to the table as a city government yet. We're still trying to get the Economic Development Committee rolling to put out an actual plan and so forth. But these businesses, whether it be the Louis Joliet Mall or whether it be M&J, Wilco, Inland, which owns a lot of them, as well as the commercial agents that are private, that rent and sell the smaller spaces, they've really done us a favor in the last 3 years since I've been here, and keeping a lot more vacant. A lot more properties are becoming vacant. The mall is an example, bringing in, I saw in the newspaper that their leasing agent brought in CW, and apparently even you're excited about that, Mayor, and your wife is. It was in the article. And I know, Kate, I know some of the folks from Wilcow. I know they're leasing agents. They bring it in, and I just want to give them kudos, give them credit for doing what they're doing, and encourage ourselves as a city government, as fellow residents, to step up now and give them more tools. So thank you to the businesses for working hard, and we're behind you. We're coming up there. We're going to come up with a plan eventually on the economic development plan. With that said, some 3 years ago, we increased taxes on several fronts, including the retail tax. At the time, I was one of the 4 that did not approve of the tax. We don't need to rehash why some people thought we needed the extra tax and why some people didn't. I do remember one wise supporter of the tax did say, but this can be temporary. Well, it's time for us to look at it being temporary. We had an $8 million surplus last year. I communicated with staff today and did some quick, if you will, figures and doodling. It looks like the tax, the 0.5%, in and of itself, not including growth that would have increased retail tax since 2011, might account for approximately $4 million. If we didn't pass the tax, or if we repeal the tax, we'll still have a $4 million surplus. So I'm calling on ourselves as a council to look at taking those wise words from that one person who voted, one of the 5 who voted for it, that said we need to visit this at some point because it could be temporary. I would like to see it assigned to both the legislative committee, because of course we have to go through them on the recommendation, but maybe prior to the legislative committee, we need to bring it to the finance committee. I serve on the finance committee. Councilman Turk does, and so does Councilman Girl. I think it's time to take a look at it. We need to help these businesses. There's nothing wrong with it, looking at this, seeing if by the end of this year, if we're starting a pattern of surpluses, it doesn't hurt to put a few $100s back in the residents' pockets. I told one member of this council the night that we voted on it, $250 in extra taxes off the retail for the average household at the time was about 160 gallons of milk for the kids. And in some parts, in some homes in this city, that's a huge consideration. So I think it's okay to put the money back in the pocket, but I think also it's time to take away this unfair playing field for our retailers. Myself, I know the mayor has, I think staff has, other council members have been contacted by people specifically in the construction industry, supply. They're losing contracts over that 0.5%. 0.5% on a $100,000 contract, $800 savings, they're going to Shanahan to buy it. I think it has become, it has outlived its purpose. I certainly didn't think it had a purpose to begin with, but we won't revisit that. I would like that, Jim, to, contact Mike as the chairman. We need to get that on for discussion at the next finance meeting. We need to look at the numbers. Last year's $8 million surplus and where we're at this year. Do some pretty hard projections. Terry, legislative, right?
Yes, sir.
You were the chairman?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, if you would get that on the legislative committee, because after we're done looking at it, then it probably certainly has to come through you. Jim, can you facilitate this?
Certainly.
I think it's time for that, and if anybody agrees or disagrees, that's all I have to say. I'd be willing to hear other points right now.
Question, Mr. Mayor.
I think we also have to look at staff. Staff is short here, police is short, the fire is short, pensions, and our pensions need to be brought up. We are low, and it's not because of the city. The Department of Insurance in Springfield always sets what the city had to pay for pensions. We hired an actuarial, and we've been paying that over the years. But unfortunately, the Department of Insurance they were figuring over 7% on the return, and it was less than that. It was 6.5 or something. Plus, police and fire are living longer. They got more benefits. So before we do that, we need to take a look at bringing staff up, because I know these staff is working their tail off as the police and as the fire. So before we start giving money back, I think we need to take a good look at our staff.
Real quick, Mayor, if I might
Wait a minute,
respond.
you had your turn. Go ahead. You had to say
Well, it's
something?
actually my topic.
I know it's your topic, okay?
Yeah, one question, Larry. When you said there was $4 million savings since 2011, is that per year or is that the total amount? I'm
No,
sorry, not
$4 million.
savings.
I estimated, Councilman Odekirk, that it would be $4 million in 2013. Of the $8 million surplus we had, $4 million would be attributed to the tax. So we'd still have $4 million left if we continue. When we came in as a council, when you came on, when Terry came on, we had a $27 million deficit and a zero balance in the reserve. We have a $33 million reserve, and we're not balanced. We have a surplus. It's not yours to give back, Mayor. What do you mean give back? It's their money. We needed it temporarily for an emergency. Need we revisit the fact that just the 3 weeks after we had this vote, we found $16.1 million?
Are you saying we're out of the emergency? You that complains all the time about taking your ambulance out of service up there, don't you think we ought to staff that ambulance so the people in your district have that ambulance?
Mayor,
That's all part of it.
You're ignoring the fact that with what we've done and the staff levels we have $8 million extra money. Surplus. That's what surplus means in the English language.
Mayor?
Yes, sure.
Yeah, a couple things. One, we are short here on staff. It's true. We're short police, fire. We're also considerably short in public works, and they shouldn't be forgotten in the equation.
Well, I said staff. That meant everybody.
But I think the theory would be that lowering the retail tax would actually stimulate growth in Joliet, and it'd be better in the long run. Instead of chasing the short money, that you're going to make a bigger picture for Joliet. I do know that I've received complaints, and I know others in this council have, from businesses or business owners who are on the borders of the city. If you owned a gas station on Plainfield Road or on Route 59, a shop, that they have to compete with Shorewood or Crest Hill or Plainfield. It's right next door, and it's hard for them to compete. So I know, look, I think we've done well as a council in pulling us out of the financial tailspin that we were in 3 years ago. But I do think that trying to stimulate growth and trying to help our business owners and encourage new business in Joliet is a positive thing. I think this should be considered. I think we need to look at the numbers. I think it's a good idea.
Just on that note, if you talk to Kate, Councilman Hugg, she told you that they're 98% occupied. They're doing well. We got 6 new restaurants coming in. Somebody's moving in downtown, on both sides of Chicago Street. So the business is here. The business is coming. Are there some that are hurting? I haven't heard. I've heard of one on Plainfield Road that he wants to do something. But businesses are coming. When I've sat down with developers or business people that want to come here, that, I got to tell you, that has never come up. The sales tax has never come up. Never. Okay? And they still come here.
Your Honor.
And
Larry, if you want to look at it, naturally we can look at it, but, I was one of the ones that voted for the sales tax and the combination of sales tax and real estate tax. And, the unemployment was high back then. It's still high now. I wasn't going to lay off people in the city of Joliet, city workers, and put them out on the street. So that's why, main reason I voted to support the staff. However, I think 82% of our budget is personnel services. And if we're going to have, at some point in time, we're going to start adding staff. We have to start adding staff. And, when you start adding staff, those numbers don't go away. And so I think we can look at it, but I think we got to be very cautious on what we're doing because I don't want to be raising taxes every couple of years. It's not a popular thing to do. I've done it before. It's not, but I've only done it when there was no other alternative.
Well, and I appreciate that.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
Yeah, I really haven't finished my comments yet, Mayor.
Well, I'm just saying, you've been
3
talking.
minutes on
I was just wondering if anybody else wanted to talk, Larry.
Mike,
This is not the Larry Hug Show.
This is my comments, Mayor.
Okay.
Calm down.
Well, just telling you. You
Put
just
together
keep-
an economic
you just
development
keep
committee meeting that
butting
makes
in.
a
I think the
difference,
last
and
time
we'll
I
start
checked,
putting
I
together
was chairing this meeting. You just keep butting in, and I'm asking if anybody else has
Putting
a
in, it
problem.
was my comments.
But you are
I'm
responding.
having a
to-
conversation in my comments to my fellow members.
Okay, all right.
I don't need a referee. I am a referee.
Blow the whistle?
I left it in the car, Jim.
Let's go time out and move this.
So, Mike, I appreciate that, but again, if you take out the $4 million, we're still $4 million up. We have over 3,000 homes that have been foreclosed on in Joliet, including the Plainfield portion.
I understand
We're
that.
talking about short-staffed, and I am one of the biggest advocates for short-staffed, but that doesn't mean that we have to tax people to death to do that. I mean, there's pain everywhere right now still. It's not over.
It's far from over, and we have to keep looking at all revenue sources. Remote gaming money is nowhere near the expectations we had in this budget, and who knows what's going to happen in the future on that. So that's why I said we can look at it, but I think we need to be very cautious.
Remember, when the tax was approved by the 5 votes, at the time, it was to close a $17 million gap that didn't exist.
Well,
that's your opinion.
Yeah. I don't,
Go to the
I don't-
newspaper, Mayor, if
I
you'd
don't-
like.
Your opinion.
So understand that. If you're saying now you've changed your opinion on why you want the tax increase, okay, then tell people, when it wasn't for the gap, it's because we want to increase taxes for expansion on this project or that staff. That's fine. But that's not how we presented it to our fellow residents.
I never changed my mind on how I voted.
So, again, Jim, I would like to see that go to both committees.
Anyone else?
I do. I have a couple things. It's hard to follow the Larry Hug Show.
There you go. You know, soft shoe if you want.
I need to buckle up now.
I think it's been about 2 weeks, and I had the opportunity to go with our, I'm going to butcher it, Jim Trisna. I forgot your title. I apologize. But I had the opportunity to go out with Jim Trisna from Streets and our city manager and kind of take a little bit of a drive around the city to kind of highlight some of the things that I see when I drive and things that I hear from different residents and visitors, looking at some of the public feedback that we receive. And I know there's been a lot of folks that have been commenting on the whole the housing CDBG funding and things that they want to see the money used for. One of the things that bothered me the most in this the tour that I had, and really the focus that I think this council's been on, is downtown Joliet. And I'm kind of appalled to see, again, some of the arteries coming into the city, like Route 53, that's half state and half city and some county, the cleanliness of it. I attended St. John's meeting, and I got pictures, and I forwarded them on to staff, and we went there ourselves and saw how the bricks were crumbling and missing and graffiti on our waterway, and the garbage all over the place, garbage along 53, wood chips in the middle of the street, and it just looked despair. And we talk about redeveloping downtown, we talk about the tourism and the Route 66 and the attractions. And for many years we had staff, we talk about staffing, that were dedicated strictly to downtown Joliet. And that individual retired and we didn't replace that. And what I like to direct staff to do is to try to work with the Sheriff's Department and try to reach out to see if we can get non-violent, low-risk detainees to do cleanup. It's been done in the past. I remember seeing folks around the county building, the jail, doing work. I don't know if they still do that. But I think if we are able to partner with them, we can start putting a little shine and cleanliness to our downtown area. And maybe we can move them to other roadway areas along the arteries of Larkin Ave. Again, I want to really see what we can do to limit cost. And the reason why, I posted this on Facebook, and I had about 70 comments on there. And everybody's comments were, why just downtown? I'm looking at less travel costs. So if you wonder why I'm focused in that area, it's easy for them to maneuver to certain areas. But unless we can find money to start cleaning up the area, let's start looking at alternatives and see what we can do with the county, with the folks that are there. The second thing I have is I attended another community meeting, and I don't know if, Jim, if you want to address this or not, or the mayor or somebody else, is we had Holstein come in and talk to us on Evergreen, and we haven't heard back yet, my understanding, from the judge on what the verdict, if we won the case or not. But I think there's been some mixed signals out there from staff, along with some members on the council, of what our intentions are now. I'm hearing from the public that we're no longer looking to do mixed use and demolishing Evergreen, like our original intentions are, to the city now is focusing on us owning Evergreen and being the landlord of it and no demolition. Can somebody clarify, is our intention still with Holstein coming in and doing mixed use, and we're going to demolish it and eventually go down that plan that was presented to us, or is it changed course, again, to restate my question, where we now are going to become the landlord of this and operate it is a public housing entity?
Well, Councilman, if I could respond to part of that. There's been no change in plan or change in course. The status of the case is still the same. This is an eminent domain case that was brought by the city in an effort to acquire ownership of Evergreen Terrace so that it could be redeveloped. That is still the game plan and the mission, that the city obtain site control and that the site be redeveloped in a way that the city council decides is appropriate for the site, taking into account all the views that the legislative process produces. The legal status of the case is that we've had a trial, an evidentiary hearing, on the city's right to acquire title to the property. That trial has been completed, and the matter is under advisement, and we are waiting for the judge to make a decision in the case. If that decision is in favor of the city, the next phase of the case will be to have a jury trial to establish the value of that property. If the city does not prevail in this phase of the case, then there will be an opportunity to appeal the court's decision. So that's legally where we are in the case. The bigger picture that I think is in your question and comment is, what is the game plan for the property should the city acquire ownership? And as we discussed earlier this year, the city has a lot of options to make a decision regarding the future of the site. In the near term, there will be the need, because there are 356 units on site, to manage the property for at least a one-year period before redevelopment can occur. The city has already engaged Holston Management Company to manage the property for us. It will not involve the commitment of any city resources, other than that we will engage Holston to be our management company for that property, just like the current ownership of the site engages a Chicago company to manage that site. The funding for management and for operation of the property will come from HUD, just like it does now, should the city acquire ownership during that one-year transitional period. During that period of time, the city council, it will be your responsibility to make a final decision in consultation with all the stakeholders about what the scope of redevelopment should be at Evergreen Terrace. And in the course of the trial, there was a settlement with the federal government that set up various options that would include redevelopment of a minimum of 115 units, either on site or elsewhere in the city. Certainly, the city council could decide to redevelop more than the 115-unit minimum that was the subject of the agreement. That's a decision that you will have to make based on your assessment of the need for subsidized apartment facilities in the city, and based on the community's ability to absorb that number of units. You'll have to make that decision. We've engaged Holston to help us in making those decisions and to design replacement facilities. We took a tour with Unity a couple of weeks ago to visit some of the Holston facilities, both at the former Cabrini Green site and then other locations in Chicago. And I don't know if news of that tour filtered back to anybody up here, but it was everyone's impression that Holston has done a wonderful job in taking one of the most notorious housing sites in the country and really changing the neighborhood to a location where you have lower density, multifamily. That's a mix of market housing and deep subsidy housing, and then tax credit housing, and also to involve commercial components and residential components, rental and for sale. So he has a style and a custom of trying to mix up the type of housing in his developments. And I can tell you that standing on the grounds of the former Cabrini Green, and it's about 20 acres are currently under development and controlled by Holston Development. And you would never know where you were. You would have no idea what that site was like 20 years ago, because it's just a completely different type of neighborhood today. Kids are playing, churches are operating, new businesses are popping up, and you would never know. You would never have imagined that you were standing on the site of Cabrini Green. So I say all that only to suggest that the city does have at its disposal the skills and resources of a very highly qualified housing development company, and he will be a resource to the full council in making a decision at the appropriate time about what is in the city's best interest for redevelopment of Evergreen Terrace, and also what's in the residents' interest for redevelopment. You have those tools available to you. But the game plan has always been the same, which is that the problem with Evergreen Terrace has always been control of the site was always in the hands of people and companies that were not responsive to the community, not responsive to the city council. They really did not ever try in good faith to deal with the problems on site and to deal with the concerns that we brought to them. And so that's why control of the site is important. That, I believe, is still the game plan, and that's what this condemnation will produce for the council. You'll have the ability to control the future of that site. It will be a city council prerogative.
Right, just, yeah, great dissertation. But again, I just want to clarify. So what you're telling me is that the city minimally will have to maintain with Holstein 1 year the property.
Yes.
I just want to get that on record, that the city minimally will basically be the landlord with Holstein of that property, and then the demolition could start within 1 year. I think that's the question out there. I know you guys attended your event. The question that I'm getting is the city going to demolish it like their intentions, rebuild the 115 units wherever,
Right.
or are we going to become the landlord of 365 units? And that's why I just wanted to hear what you said, which was minimally 1 year, the city will be the owner of it if we win.
Right.
And then after that 1 year, the council will make a decision of whether or not we keep it with Holstein or demolish it to the 115 units or all of it. Am I understanding that correctly?
You're using the phrase demolish. I think we've spoken in terms of redevelopment. And again, we've had a lot of discussion. I don't want to get into all the details, but
Well, maybe that's the word that people are confused, redevelopment and demolition. Because the community meeting I went to, they want it demolished. They want it gone. So I think we need to be clear what our intentions are. I think there's no, I mean, maybe it's redevelopment, demolition. I'm using demolition because I think that's what the residents want, to demolish it to better that area. That's what I hear from the St. John's area, from Kappa, I heard it from Cunningham. So I just want to make sure we're clear as a council that that's our intentions. I'll be honest with you, I don't want to go down the road where we become the landlord of Evergreen. Because I don't think the residents or the community around there want that. I think they want it demolished and redeveloped to the mixed use that Hosting presented.
I would agree that when this began, it was not the city council's intention in 2005 to acquire the site, just to operate it as is.
Okay.
You have that option. If when the time comes, a decision is to be made, that's an option that you'll have. But was that the original objective? No, of course not.
Thank you.
Mayor, question on the Evergreen Terrace. I don't have nothing to add to it. I'm waiting for a plan, waiting for the judge's ruling. So, Jeff, is there an update on the judge's ruling, or are we just waiting?
Just waiting.
Okay.
With bated
We
breath.
were kind of projecting June, then July, and now we're into August.
Well, I think my initial comments in late May was I expected a decision in 30 to 60 days, but I said at the time it's up to the judge. And we're, what, about 70 days into it now, so it's still fairly close. And the trial took a year and a half. There were over 100 trial days, and these are full days. So the judge has a very complicated and lengthy record, and I am sure, after having seen Judge Norgal in action, he will be very thorough in how he makes a decision and how he explains his decision to the public by referring to the record. So I expect a very lengthy opinion that reflects the length of the trial.
Thank you. So the only question I had is, because we know this is a controversial issue, it's going to come down to a vote of 9 folks who have talked to the community, and we know it can be a stressful discussion, and that's why I want to leave it. But because it's controversial, because it's produced a lot of collateral tension, there's still one thing out there, Mayor, that I'm hoping you have an update today. Now, you made an accusation that somebody leaked on Evergreen some months back. What happened with the investigation you called for from the state's attorney's office?
I haven't been in contact with the state's attorney.
As far as, Mr. Mayor, I have had discussions with the office, and the matter is still under review.
Okay.
But that's all I can report.
How long ago was that discussion?
That was a couple of weeks ago.
I do not contact state's attorney's office, and so. Any other new business for? Yeah.
As I think we all know, there was a horrific traffic accident on I-55 last week where I believe 5 people lost their lives. And it's clear, this isn't the first accident we've had in the area. And obviously, I think that accident had something to do with the construction going on 55. But we have a significant traffic problem in Joliet around Center Point. And this is nothing new. We've dealt with fatalities on Route 53 in the last couple of years. There's been others on 80 or 55. Center Point is a great economic engine for Joliet, and certainly encourage what they're doing and encourage more growth. But I think it's clear at this point that we don't have the infrastructure in place to handle the number of trucks that are on the road. Now, I know myself, about 8 months ago, was contacted by several union officials, and I had a private meeting where they presented a plan to build a truck toll bridge somewhere in the area of Hobolt Road, which would go over the river directly to Center Point and would alleviate a lot of the traffic problems that we're having on these other roads. And I believe others on the council also met with these individuals. They told me that they had private funding for this project. It was not going to cost the city any money. And there was a plan that through the collection of tolls, they would pay back the shareholders and eventually turn the bridge over to Joliet and let it become Joliet property and let Joliet maintain and collect the toll money. This was some time ago, and again, I think the traffic accident last week really highlighted that we need, in my opinion, we need to move forward on this project. So I am proposing, and I'm willing to take leadership of this, but I'm proposing, Jim, that in the next 2 weeks, we get together the stakeholders, whether it be these union officials, other elected officials, statewide, countywide, or citywide, we sit down and have a meeting and figure out how to give this legs and get this proposal going. It made sense, at least on paper, what I was shown made sense. It seemed like a no-brainer, and it seems like something that we should be addressing as a city. It hasn't happened, and I definitely want to do that. And I would encourage anybody on this council who wants to lend their support or get involved to help me in doing that. But having said that, I plan on reporting back in 2 weeks what the progress is. I'll speak with you after the meeting, but this is something I definitely want to see us implement, and I really want to see us get active in getting after this and getting this done. Yeah, obviously, we're not going to build a bridge, unfortunately, before the next traffic accident, but to ignore the problem, it can't be done anymore. We need to take proactive action on this.
If I may, Bob, approximately 2 weeks ago, we did have a meeting at Nardi's. All the stakeholders, the investors, they are moving on it. There are some concerns by the investors to ensure that the trucks use the toll road. It is moving forward. There's a lot of loose ends to be tied up, I agree, but it is moving forward as fast as it can. That's what I'm going to say. There were people, we had 2 people from IDOT, we had the major investor, we had the gentleman that's trying to put it together, myself. There was about 10 or 12 of us there, and we discussed this, and it is moving forward. So, you know.
Well, yeah, with all due respect, and we've had enough debate up here tonight, so I'm not going to quibble with you, Mayor. I suspected you were going to have an answer like that. The bottom line is, nothing has been presented to this city council regarding this plan. Nothing has been presented to our Economic Development Committee, which you're the chairman of. Nothing has been presented to the Finance Committee or the Land Use Committee, and I think we need to get more aggressive on this, and essentially that's what I'm proposing. If there have been meetings, I certainly wasn't contacted by it, and I don't know if anyone else on the council was. I'm asking going forward, I want to be part of this movement. I want to be contacted in any future meetings, and I want our staff to get more aggressive in pursuing this.
If members of this council are contacted, then we have an open meetings. It's a violation of the open meeting. All of us can't be there. The reason it's not open is because the investor does not want it known yet who they are.
Well,
they want it kept quiet, and we can invite 2 and 3 council people to go because it's a violation of the Open Meetings Act, Bob.
Well, if you and I attend, it's not a violation, but this was talked about by Representative Larry Walsh. It was in the paper last week, so I don't think it's a secret, and I'm certainly not trying to blow anybody's cover, but the public knows about this, and again, nothing's been presented to the council, and I suspect, like other things that have happened, that it could be, that there's more we could be doing.
It's the bridge itself is public, not the investor.
I understand.
Okay, the investors want to keep it quiet
I understand.
until they get all the I's dotted and the T's crossed. Then it'll come out who the investor is.
Mayor, can I
Yes,
comment?
sure.
Councilman Oderkirk, I can't echo what you're saying, the need of this. But this is something, and no criticism to yourself or myself. I added Silver Cross Hospital, something that was left out by the council and staff when we were doing the strategic plan. Can we put this on the strategic plan? Can we amend it to make this a priority? I don't see why we could not add this. I agree with you. I think this is something that's much needed. It's something that whatever the city could do with the resources that we could bring forward. I understand the investors part, but I don't see a reason why we can't have transparency to where we are and where we're trying to go, especially after all the lives that were lost. On my way here last night, there was a rollover on I-80 and 55, which was in the paper today. It's an issue, and it's an issue that affects the residents of Joliet. It's an issue that we could hopefully solve if we're all maybe somehow looped into it, Finance Committee, Economic Development Committee, so the city could bring in resources. And maybe it's taking place and we don't know about it, but again, we need to have some leadership, put it on the strategic plan and get updates on it. So I support it.
This is not going to cost the city any money, okay? And I'm afraid that if you push these people, they're liable to pull in the reins, okay? They're moving along, believe me when I tell you, I have a conversation with one of the main players 2 days ago, and it is moving along. That's all I can say. And is it going to be fast? No, it's liable to be, 3 years, 5 years, okay, before it's built. You're talking about $150, $170 million bridge, and they got to deal with the IEPA, they got to deal with the Corps of Engineers, et cetera. There's a lot of loose ends that have to be tied up. Okay?
There's no reason the city cannot be a part of it.
Well, the city is a part of it. Jim's been at meetings, I've been at meetings, we are part of it. But we can't have it a public meeting, that's all I'm saying.
Well, and I wasn't calling for a public meeting, but I want to be part of the process going forward. That's what I'm asking.
Well, then you'll have to talk to the people that are doing it.
Okay.
Just a quick comment. Councilman Oderkirk, if you would, please, I suspect in observing this conversation, you'll be reaching out to the folks that met with you last fall.
Yes.
That are the players in this game.
Those people approach me.
Right, I understand. Please keep me up to date on it, because this is huge. So when you meet with these folks, keep me up to date on it. I understand what the mayor's saying, but nobody here is trying to talk about it publicly. But, you know, we don't know what's going on. You'll find out for us. Thank you.
Anything else? Comments?
Oh, yes, on comments, thank you, Mayor. On behalf of the Forest Park community, we were asking you to save the date for August the 16th. It is our second annual Peace and Healing Back to School Jamboree. And this year, it's very exciting for us because I'd like to thank a few people who have been able to bring some resources to the table and do some really great things in the community. There is a 10-acre park on Cutter Avenue is where our event will be located this year, but it is owned by the Park District. It is Forest Park. And so with the collaboration of our mayor, Tom Girani, and the Joliet Park District, and Mr. Willie Cervantes and his company, the Forest Park Community Council, Neighborhood Council, and all of the residents there who have joined together to improve the park. So, Your Honor, we thank you for bringing in, helping us to bring in P.T. Farrell. We have now a more than a half-mile walking track, which is going to be a great addition to the park, sir. We have all brand-new park equipment. We want to certainly thank Mr. Cervantes and his company, along with P.T. Farrell, for the in-kind donations that they have done in that area. And we want you to come out and look at this beautiful 10-acre park that has been revived and rejuvenated. And so please, if you have some free time on August the 16th from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m., join us in the park. We will be giving away free backpacks full of school supplies. We want to make sure that our children are back to school. Came up pretty fast, too, didn't it? Summer went by fast. But that our children have all of the tools and the resources that they need to become successful. Want you to come and walk the trail, the walking track. It is awesome. Soccer fields. 2 baseball diamonds, a football field is going in, and we're just into phase 1 right now. So I do want to thank Executive Director Dominic Agizio, Larry Birch, the Park District Commissioners, again, P.T. Farrell, our mayor, who saw the opportunity to come and help us out on this venue. The residents there who have been working hard to pull all of this together. So please, join us if you can. Free food, games, fun, entertainment, and Your Honor, if we could have you to cut the ribbon along with the Park District that morning, sir, we would certainly appreciate that. So thank you so much. Come out, have some fun with us.
John?
I have no comments, Your Honor.
Oh, real quick, I just, as a member of the Economic Development Committee, something that was brought up tonight's meeting kind of disturbed me. We need to move forward on the Economic Development Committee, putting together a real plan, a 5-year rolling economic development plan. This is the 4th or 5th time I've asked for this, and we still haven't had a meeting addressing this. Am I understanding this right? We're depending on the mall to provide the 4th largest city in the state with our own traffic patterns? We don't have that data? That's what an Economic Development Committee would be doing, lining up our sales package. And we've made, so please, somebody, call a meeting so we can approach this. Mayor, you are right, we've had several businesses in the last year and a half or so, 2 years come in. And again, I just, it's been a lot of restaurants and burger joints, but it's better than nothing, and I can't thank the private businesses who brought them in enough. None of us up here should be taking credit for it. We need to support them. We need to go beyond what they're bringing in. They're struggling. They're doing a good job, so I can't thank them enough for bringing these businesses in. So we need to, as a council and as a city, thank them and assist them. And I think I did mention that, obviously, earlier. I have been approached, Mayor, by businesses that have considered the 0.5% increase, even inside the borders of the city, far away from the gas station you alluded to. Alexander Lumber has felt it, and you know that for a fact, because he met with you, and he met with me, and he met with other folks. So, any business owners and residents, as far as their shopping bill goes, if the mayor needs to hear from you, I think it's T. Girani at jolietcity.org. I'm L. Hug at jolietcity.org. I've gotten a lot of emails, phone calls, and like Councilman McFarland, talk to people in public, business owners who say it does make a difference. That 0.5% does make a difference. Please reach out to everyone up on this council and weigh in, because we're trying to give you the tools to continue what you've done for us already as a business community. Thank you. Jim.
I'd just like to remind the public that this Thursday at 3 o'clock, we're going to be having a land use committee meeting, and there's going to be two presentations that I think are very important that affects Joliet and its residents. One is a presentation of our rental study. I think there's a lot of information out there, a lot of tidbits that will answer a lot of questions that residents have, especially with the foreclosure market and kind of what's happening in the Joliet rental market. Another important item that's on there is an update on the consolidation plan and fair housing action plan. We discussed this a little bit, I believe, at the last meeting. There were some surveys out there. I think it's another important topic that I asked the residents to either attend the meeting and find out what's going on, or you can always go back to our website and listen to the meeting afterwards. That's all I have, Mayor.
Yeah, I'd just like to congratulate Joliet Hospice. They had a golf outing today that was very successful. And yeah, I thanked them a year ago, but on behalf of my mother and my family, I want to thank the wonderful people there for the services they provided when my father was there. So thank you.
Just a couple of things. Getting back to Councilman McFarland's about the garbage in the neighborhood. And what about if the businesses would take a little ownership and clean up in front of their places? Because I know a lot of businesses all over, there's garbage everywhere. And if, it was a neighborhood, a single-family home, you would get on those folks about cleaning up the garbage. So I think they could take a little initiative and help clean up the city. Second of all, on the garbage issue, I've had some calls. Waste Management will not pick up old garbage cans, even if it says, please take me. So how do we dispose of old garbage cans? Can we look into that and ask them, what can folks do with that? Because now we have the green containers and all the other ones are not good anymore. They're rotted out, but they won't take them.
Will it fit in the green container?
Well, some of them will, but some of them won't. I mean, so does it go in the recycle container or the garbage container? That's the question.
We'll get an answer
So
for
we
you.
can get an answer. I have several phone calls on that. And then to discuss about the bridge, about the terrible traffic accidents on I-55, and I've been pushing this for months, almost over a year now, about Route 6. That's also just as important because you have the CNN Transportation Center over here on Route 6, and the trucks aren't going down Briggs Street, they're going down Route 6. It's a horrible road, and if you've been in an accident and you're in the ambulance, you can ask our fire department. It's a horrible road to go down, especially if you're in the back of an ambulance. It's just terrible, and they did overlay it last year because we had such a brutal winter. There's so many potholes, and it's just 2 lanes. And it's just another accident waiting to happen there as well. And every time I see our senators or state reps, I say Route 6 needs to be done as well. And last but not least, we've lost one of our good citizens, Mary Haniotis. She was a volunteer at Bicentennial Park for many, many years, and she passed away last week. And I'd just like to send condolences to her and her family for all her many years of service at Bicentennial Park. Thank you. Have a good weekend. And everyone, all this talk about I used to talk about, leaving your dogs in a hot car. Please check the back seat about your children as well. I mean, they're just as important as the animals, so don't leave anybody in a hot car. Thank you.
Mike?
Your Honor, I hate to talk about taxes again, but I just want to make one comment. I'm not going to have a debate, but, Larry, you wanted to know if I had changed my reasoning why I supported the last increase, and the answer is no. I think that, and I respect everybody up here. They all have their own job to do. I would have to go back and look at the minutes to see who voted for it and who didn't, because once the vote is cast, I'm done with it, and I'm never going to get in anybody's face for making a decision. They have their right, and they're elected to do what they think is right. But, I think it's the most unpopular thing we can do sitting up here is vote for a tax increase. Nobody likes taxes increase. The ones I voted for over the year, when I've looked at the numbers, they were inevitable. We had to do it. And in my opinion, this is my opinion, we had to do it. And I wasn't going to let this city fall on its face and come into Detroit. But I think on the other hand, it's easy to sit up here and vote against a tax increase, or every tax increase, and some people on different boards over this town do it, but then vote for the project that money generates to enhance that, to vote for that. You can't do it both ways. So, and that's why I've done it over the years, that I think it was necessary. It's not popular, but I think the water department is a much better situation it was than it was 10 years ago. We had to do some tough choices there, but it's not easy to do it, but I think sometimes you have no alternative, and that's necessary. But I think just sometimes it has to be done. But on the other hand, it's also easy to spend the money that money generates. Some people have voted against budgets, but that's their prerogative. I'm done.
I just have one comment. We've talked about the bridge going over from Humboldt to the intermodal. Route 53 from the Viaduct south is treacherous. I was out there the other day. There's pace buses that actually stop on the highway. School buses stop on the highway. There's no room for them to pull off. They stop on the highway to let children on or off. So it's not only that bridge, but Route 53 is very, very bad. And Larry Walsh Jr. knows about it, and they're trying to do something. That come up at the meeting we had about the bridge, about Route 53 also, and what they can do to keep the trucks off of Route 53. So that's all I have. A motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. Motion seconded to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned.
Oh, I'm done. And I guess.